Today we have Therese Jagersberger as our honored guest. She was working with human design for over 18 years and is one of the first-time students of Ra Uru Hu. She's a 5-1 self-projected projector and a certified international human design school reader. And in true projector fashion, you can only find her over her Facebook profile, and she is somewhat of a hot tip.
Hot tip.
Welcome to the show, Therese Jagersberger.
Yeah, thank you, Miran. And thank you also for having me here today. And we have already had a very nice conversation in German dialect, a bit, to get to know each other because we share that profile of being a 5-1 and of being a G projector, self projector. And it's always very, very nice for me also to talk to somebody who is we're not the same, everybody's unique, but on the surface in quite a similar blueprint, navigating through this life with similar challenges that are specific for a self-projector also, and for a 5-1 profile. And as I also just mentioned, also split definition. Yes, split between ajna and throat. So we have two parts in our body graph. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you on this podcast now. And yeah, thank you for the hot tip. It's true, you find me on the International Human Design website under Austrian Analyst and Living Your Design Guides. I think that's where you find me. But not many people find me through that. Some do, but it's not so many. They find me rather over Facebook, via Facebook. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very easy and efficient. Just when you're so long in this sea, then people just come and you do not need any website or stuff. It's just running. Very interesting. Yeah, our similarities is the reason why I'm eager to talk to you and have talked to you already. And my first question is, how is it to be an 18-year deconditioned projector? How is it to live like that?
Marvelous. It's very good on the one hand side, but also the longer I've been in the process, the more I realize it's really a lifelong journey of deconditioning. There will never be the point, I think, where it's like, now I'm completely deconditioned and that's it. I think that's death. Yeah, that's where it's all over. And until then, also a bit like an onion, you've just shed a layer and another layer of stuff comes up that hasn't even come to the consciousness before. And I'm like, like every 7 years, it's not like, it's not like you go in a circle and you arrive exactly where you've started. That would be really depressing. But it's more like a spiral. You come back to the point, but let's say on a higher level, because spiral goes upwards. But then the same, issues, the same challenges come again, where you enter the new round, a new 7 year cycle, hopefully in a 9-centered way. And you can look or live with these things in a different way. And I'm sure the next one will come when it's like it's in 3 years. It will be the third, or it's only 2.5 years anymore. My third 7 years will be completed, and I have no illusion that it'll be done then. Just curious, what then? Yeah.
It's more like the bitterness gets less and less and the success more and more.
Yes.
So gradually. And
Yeah.
it's true that what they say, that the aura speaks for you, so you do not need to initiate anything. Everything comes to you and you act out of your authority.
That's
This
more
G
and
isn't
more.
so important to be invited.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So the first big thing signpost wise is also that I'm not bitter. When I have a challenging time, I still get into not self situations with people. When I do a certain job, I think, I can do this as an advisor. It's very much like a projector job, but then there are people in that environment that do not recognize me, and I suddenly have to deal with them. Somebody else did, but maybe not that person. And then I have my confrontations with them. You can't help it as a 5-1. Yeah, they will just overload you with, oh, this and this and that. And then I'm getting still in the like, hello, that's not correct. And if I see that's not the correct relationship, I would rather, I feel still the fatigue of being in such a thing. I feel like it's unpleasant and I need to get out of it. Or I have somebody who can help me with that, and then it's also fine. But I'm not bitter in the sense like when I was younger, there was like this whole world is bad, is against me, and self pity, and really, really suffering so deeply. So that's really not there anymore. But it can still happen that I meet big challenges. And but the people or who can then see me, there's always somebody around who is then of aid, because more and more people can see me, because I guess my aura has been cleaned of the hugest yeah, not self what would you say, signals. Like in the beginning, we always live through the open centers. Even if we try to be ourselves, the deconditioning is not just by knowing who we are. There was still a lot of my open sacral not knowing when enough is enough in the beginning. So, of course, I attracted more people who would then exactly um, criticize me for, although I was trying, still not enough. Compared to do a generator's job, I cannot be a generator. Now I don't try this anymore. I say, well, that's not my thing. I'm not here for this and that. And then they more and more see, but that's what you're here for. It's the guiding, it's the talking to people, working with people on their issues, supporting them, helping them, like not a support like a tribal, but giving them tools to also get more self independent. So all these things happen more and more. The aura attracts more of the good on the inverted comma people, because first I had to clear out, and I still sometimes have to clear out the really cluttered field around me with people who would tell me what's wrong, what I should do differently, and where I was not good enough. Open ego, acting out of the open ego in the beginning, trying to prove something, making promises that I couldn't keep, devastating. And that's become much better. Yeah. So these things, also knowing I'm not emotionally defined. So when there is a drama, I can tell the people like, can we not deal with that in this emotional way, especially at work? Yeah. I don't need that here. And then if they insist on emotional drama or on whatever, I'm like, well, I come back when there is a different way of communication. And they have to accept it. And that takes a lot of confidence. And I didn't have it from childhood on. Well, I was like most projectors, apparently, not encouraged to be myself. So this is a slow, slow build up, a slow learning process. But yeah, I'm for sure in a very different place than I used to be. Hmm.
So conscious knowledge becomes awareness,
Hmm.
or points to things to be aware of. And it's, for me, it sounds like a handwork. So it's really something we learn, we do. Funny enough
Hmm.
to say for a projector, but
Yeah.
maybe we exercise or live it. And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
it slowly, it becomes us, and we know it's easier to say no, it's easier to step out. We experience slowly that there is nothing bad that happens when we say no, quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And there has to be a change of environment, meaning the people. If we try that in the same setup with the same people, I don't think they would all change and let us be us. It's really about seeing where it doesn't work and not being bitter about it, but saying that's not for me and making space for others. And like now, my friends, I really had to let go of 3, 4 friends that I had for many, many years. And I always thought through telling them who I am and what I need and all that, it hasn't worked out. We rarely see each other anymore, or some it really had to be a cut. And some of them may be really pissed with me and like, oh, why did you still do this? And don't understand, and I have to live with that. But now it's my environment is people who see me for who I am and love me for that, or at least appreciate and accept. And that's I had to physically throw people out or cut them off. Otherwise, you can't do this as a projector. Only think, I wake up in the morning, now I tell them all no, thank you, and now today they will interact with me differently. It's too strenuous for us. We don't have the energy to keep that up. If not through some miracle, they suddenly see that it has to be different people. So this has to change in our lives, and then it gets easier and easier.
And previously is something inside shifts. So this new knowledge leads to new awareness, to new desires.
Yes,
And
exactly. Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like, I don't know, maybe for a 5-1, it's even more important, this manifestation field,
Mm-hmm.
that it's easier to shift something inside, make decisions what I take and what I can't take any longer, and then go out with that. It's needed that we say it to other people,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel some relationships shift, others just ghosting me, then they're just
Mm-hmm.
gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the third part, usually family or very close friends, there is a talk, a very clear talk.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they do not understand, and then there is a cut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Either you respect that or you don't, but if you don't, our way is part.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
yeah, absolutely. Especially when you have as a non-motorized person, when you have motorized people in your life. And I'm thinking also of the emotional center, like my mother, could not interact with me without, of course, throwing whole her whole emotions at me because she never learned to take responsibility for emotions for that motor also. Like my husband is also emotionally designed, but he takes responsibility. He's a manifester. He says, today I don't feel so good. Maybe I just go to bed and I'll wake up tomorrow and it might be different. So it's not like, I feel bad and it's your fault and all that. So with people who would not see the point, like my mother, and she was also a generator, manifesting generator, I was braving up, trying to tell her because it was all before human design. She died many years ago. But still, I knew I had to tell her certain things, not being like, not self emotionally shunning confrontations. Like, what's important for me, I wanted to communicate. What I didn't know then is that for generators, you need to ask them if you can talk to them. That's really what I learned physically more. I don't know if you know Marianne Winiger. She's also one of the very long-term, I don't want to say comrades, a person in Ra's life. She's been in human design for 25 years at least. one of the first people who he also asked to do certain things, a generator, pure generator, and she does immersions. Was there in Stockholm in June. It was beautiful. And these people who are generators can also teach us projectors to really ask them, to really check if the sacral opens for them. Because if we talk at a generator and the sacral is closed, we can save our breath. It will not get through to them. They have an open aura, the generators, while ours is focused on the G. So we penetrate them automatically. And then that's painful for them. They don't want that. So they close the sacral is the inner authority, or even if it's emotional, still the motor is closed, the sacral. And only by saying, can I ask you something? See if the body says yes, or can I talk to you? And if the body doesn't open up, why would we talk at them? It would be like talking to the wall, or then they get angry or whatever. So if the sacral opens up for us because we get the right moment or something is just good for that, and they say okay, then we ask. Best thing is to ask back, or we say something. I would like to talk about our relationship. Do you want to hear it? And then check again. Yeah, is this something they would be open to? And I never did this with my mother. I was like, yeah, when I was little, you beat me up and I was so wrong. And she was not open to that at all. I don't know if she would have, if I had found the right strategy. Yeah, strategy interacting between projectors and generators. So we never found that space for us. It was just 2 decades because I have the defined mental definition. She had open head Ajna, her only 2 open centers. And that's where I could get in. I could talk and talk at her. But then she gave me all her motors against me, like, and woof, I was flat to the wall, of course. I never knew how a correct intertype communication could work. And that was a pity. And I can't do anything about it because she's dead. My dad, I could reach him a bit better, although I didn't know about the questions. He was not emotionally defined. He was a pure manifesting generator. And he could hear me a bit better. We had certain chances to connect in a more correct way. He saw me. That's also a gift he had. He could see me somehow. My mother, I think, just had her disappointments about what I was not, what she wanted me to be, and that was it mostly. Yeah, so that's also a way what I had to learn. Yes, stand up for myself, say who I am, but see if it can be in a correct way. Like with manifestors, it's different again. You can't even talk to manifestors, like tell them something. Talk into the room, don't even look at them, and they may find this an interesting topic. And if they invite us then to talk about that, then it can work. So with my husband, I have some balloons I put out. And then if he picks it up or picks it up, fine. But if I'm like, now I want to say, I can also see closed aura. He's a friendly person, but I can't get in. So that's also a very big learning thing that I wouldn't have ever known without human design.
I think we are more trained to speak in the manifestor way. So in business world, we often speak rhetorically or suggesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ways I find best to speak with my mother and father, to just say, oh, I would love to do that and that, or have you here.
Yeah.
And so that they do not need to do anything if they do not want to.
With both manifestors, you said, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah.
most beautiful with a pure generator
Mm-hmm.
talk I ever had was I was very aligned and I was always asking these yes or no questions. Do you want my take on it?
Mm-hmm.
Several times. Every time she said something to me, I asked her before.
Mm.
And that was so beautiful because she felt so seen and respected, and she always could utilize her sacral. I think she even has a channel to the spleen, so very fast
Mm.
response.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah, that makes such a difference. Mm. Very good.
a good question that leads us to our letter is, how do you utilize your authority when you define what's correct for you? So, do you first speak to yourself? Is it right for me to end these relationships? How do you go about with your authority?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I just catch myself often enough talking to myself, and I just talk. I do this also in the street, so it's good now in modern times when people all have their earplugs, like headphones, and it's normal that people walk around talking without you seeing a cable even hanging out. So I get away with that. Like 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I had to pay attention that I'm not the weirdo because I can't help it. We have two channels parallel. One is my 8-1, so the self expression. So that's also just coming out in an individual way. And then my leadership on the other side of you, I have the 31-7 leading into future, and so that's something I need to be invited for anyways. Although I feel it, I feel that urge. I have to be cautious about that. So when I need to take a decision about the four important things, which is relationship, of course, place, and work, friendships, I talk to other people who are important to me, or if it concerns them as well, of course, then I also need to have them involved, like my husband or somebody at work, if we do some project together. Because I was a school teacher, this was very difficult. I couldn't thrive really. It was my learned job, which I didn't even choose. My mother chose that. So this was the very old times where she made me even choose a career. And I quit then, and I'm adult education, supporting or helping people as an advisor, next to my self-employed thing, which is the human design. But that's not something on a daily basis yet. It's growing, and that's why I can shift away from the other stuff. And why was I starting with that? Yeah, for the decisions to do this, my husband is mostly the person I talk to, and he's very good at listening. So still I have to, yeah, be careful that he doesn't give tips, because that's not what the self projector needs, not their input, not their opinion, not anything. Whatever I say, if he says I support that, I second, then that's good, that's great, or he repeats that even so I know what I said, that's perfect. But sometimes he comes still, is the manifester, he has ideas, and then it doesn't work so well. So then I'd rather talk to the wall, to myself, or just, it doesn't work thinking in my head. That would drive me crazy. I need to speak it out. And I have also a self projector friend. In case of emergency, I can talk to her, and she says, then also, did you just hear? You just gave the answer. Or I do this with her. When she talks, she can also, like, we are the gunslingers, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and this, and I don't know what to do. And I could do, and then I'm like, hey, you already said it. Yeah, because she's even faster than me. She hasn't, she can't hear herself sometimes. And I guess I can't either. And if somebody says, hey, you just said, listen to yourself. And then I know this decision is clear. Yeah. Do you do this too? How do you?
Yes, and what I wanted to say is, sometimes I'm surprised. I wanted to ask you, but you gave the answer beforehand. Sometimes I just sit there, do something else, and then I say something, and then I listen to myself and I think, oh my God, that's true. Like, so I was working with people one on one, free of charge for years. So, as a projector.
Mhm.
And then I
Mhm.
said, it only ever brought me misery. And it's like, oh, I do it for 14 years. And then I realize, okay, that's actually true. I need to change something.
Yeah, that's important to listen to ourselves, because I also can't help it. I just say something. I'm like, yeah, you just said that. Listen to yourself. That's the most important thing for us, I think, to take it seriously what we are saying. It's really for us, not for anybody else. If it's for our decision making, that's the inner authority, and we need to hear it. If other people want us to help them for decision making, it has to be about their inner authority, like it's the sacral or is it emotional. But for us, yeah, we have it. We have this inbuilt speaking mechanism that tells us, yeah, what's correct for us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it confused me before I knew about human design and my authority. I talk to somebody, I talk and I know what I want, and then they start with their authority, and I was confused many times. I learned even before human design to trust only my intuition
Mm-hmm.
because I fell on my ass so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, oh, I already knew it before that this was right for me and not that what the other person
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
was driving me into. Especially my mother, she meant well, but she's emotionally defined and she always second guessed me. She always said, are you really sure? And when you do this as a male, either you become very insecure, but I'm a Taurus and my ascendant is Virgo, so I'm a double earth sign. There is nothing more stubborn than me out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the second thing became I became really sure what I wanted and what I do.
Very good. Yeah. No, I was not so lucky. When I was a kindergarten kid, even my mother knew that I was to become a teacher, because she wanted to do this, and for her, they were poor and she had to do other things, so she couldn't be a teacher. And she always told me, "You will be a teacher," and I always said no, but she didn't listen, and I didn't know to listen to myself enough. And then through school, I tried to do as little as possible. And I was always hoping her plans would probably drop, but they never did. So even though I did very little, I somehow passed through school. And then there was the now university. Okay, so what do I study? And her dreams had been English and history teacher. So that's what I studied. And I thought then, yeah, I win a few years. University is fun. I like it. I like English. I like history. It's interesting. Whatever it is for a projector, you can just study it. Grammar, I understood all that. And I had freedom and I could enjoy my student life, which I did. But I always said, yeah, I will never stand in a classroom. But not like you. When the time came to get the job, there was this. Okay, just go there for 1 year. It's called like introductory year, and then for you've at least then finished it. You never know in the future. Maybe you have to come back to be a teacher. So, and I tried a few other things. I tried to go to be an actress, but then my parents were like, "If you do that, then you will not support you." And they talked. They were so, and I was not strong enough, not confident enough. But my mother was really a powerhouse with 3 manifesting channels and just really all the centers apart from head ajna. And she was violent. She really beat me, and so I didn't stand up for that. And so I ended up in school and was there for 3 years. But fortunately for me, then I got pregnant, which I didn't know that it's not really a projector thing. But for me, at least I didn't have to work in school anymore. And I had a husband, my first husband, who had the super good, great idea to move to Ibiza, where I could raise the kids. So this was a great invitation. The marriage was not so good, we separated after 4 years, but then I was already in Ibiza, and then I met the human design people and Ra, and my life really changed. So I didn't have to follow that teacher thing. Only I went back to the last 10 years from Ibiza. It was also a bit of a financial problem. And I got back into school for a few years, and I knew it was a kind of a not self decision. I could handle it in a different way, and that's also something for projectors. We might find ourselves still, or again, after a period where we lived our life way more correctly, in a situation where we know it's not 100% just super correct. Especially if there are some decisions, or we still have like a child or other stuff that came from before we met human design. My ex-husband stopped paying, and so I did my day job, which was a teacher, to support my child, which is so not projector like, and it cost me a lot. But the good thing, I was not identifying. In the past, it was like, oh, I don't do a good job, and all that, and I should and I would. And then I was like, look at it. It's not you really. I knew I could do something for some children. I was for sure an inspiration, and we have special connections one to one, but it was not my place. A state school, like, is too hierarchical, too strict, too regulated. Absolutely not my environment for a 5-1. But at least I could watch myself in that environment without identifying. I didn't think, oh, I should get better. I was like, okay, a few more years and then you're out of it again. And I'm out of it again. And
Yeah, the
so,
motivation was different. Now it was for your child, not to satisfy the projections of your mother and
yes,
to rebel against it.
yes, exactly. But it was unpleasant enough. So if
Yeah,
you
I
come
think
back, it's not pleasant.
it takes years to, how you stated it, to clear the field. We are so conditioned to work that's so in our bones how we function,
Mm,
especially in the West, how we make money, how
absolutely.
we go about it in business and everywhere, how we raise a child, how we are as a man or a woman. It's everywhere. It's like we turn it around, and it takes years to integrate it.
Mm,
We know now, and it in between it might be even harder to know and see that it's not the way we could live it,
mm-hmm,
and then change it from the inside. We need to build the foundation, the trust, where we can construct the house of a projector onto it, which always was there. It's like we live in the wrong house.
yeah,
Now we build our new one.
yes, yes.
And every brick needs to be laid new because there's no reference. I
Mm,
do not know many. You might be the first projector I meet who is in the success frequency.
mm.
It's like the whole
Wow.
world is in the not self.
Yes, yes, that's true. And my friends, also the one I exchange with, she knows about human design. She's met it, I think, like 5 years ago, and she's amazing and wonderful. But whenever I call her, she's in like overwhelmed with work. And she's good at her job, and she does some things that she also is good at and guiding, but it's so much too much, and health problems coming up, and it's so painful for me. And I want every projector to get into that place where you do not have to function from morning to evening, and other people telling you in which rhythm. And as you said, how we can work much more effectively than generators. We know how to use our energy and get stuff done in a shorter time. But they tell us how many work hours we should do, or how long something is supposed to take, and how much energy, or how we present all our results. And that's really sad. And it's really sad to see. And I don't know, I whenever I had to, I went back to that, tried for a while, never too long. Fortunately, I always found doors again out. Um, but in the time where I was in, I could see, well, if I continue like that, I could see burnout really already written on the wall. And then I got out. I was always very lucky. But some people, they are ground down, some projectors, until they are really done or suffering bad health situations. Yeah.
So then they are supported by the health system for a while and they have the space to transform it. Sadly, it's sad because I know someone in Germany too who is same profile as we
Mm,
and everything. And she is like pregnant to the second child, started as a teacher, and now she is pregnant to the
wow.
second child. They wanted it, but I guess it's a little bit early that the dream
Oh,
fulfilled itself.
wow.
But she even speaks like a generator. She's a super generator. Everyone depends on her. So if she or your friend with our authority would ask you, how would you use your authority to slowly shift it before I crash? What would
Mm.
you answer?
Well, you mean, I'm not sure if you understood the question. How would I answer if I were them, or no? Or what would I tell them? What was
If
the
they asked you, I'm a self-projected projector. I
question?
function like a generator, and I feel like the wall is coming closer.
Mm.
How can I use my authority to come out of it? So, what do you change first? How do you use it to take aligned decisions or train your authority or build your confidence
Mm.
in your authority because they are entirely moved or gesteuert
Yeah,
von der
controlled also. This also is a lot about being
yes,
controlled, and also our
from the
mind
outside. Yes.
controls that. Yeah, the most important thing is not to listen to our mind, because the mind is the agent of that not self world, and it tells us. It's not just the others telling us. They may also still do it if there are parents, partners, whoever around, but the mind has its playground in our open centers. And exactly there we have to look. Is my mind still telling me in my open ego I have to, or my undefined ego, I have to prove something? If through a trial to prove I'm a worthy mother who can just make ends meet because maybe the father doesn't, or as a man, even stronger, do I have to prove I'm a good provider? I'm a man as a self projector. That's a big tricky thing, I think, especially when you have children. Or is my route just jumping, galloping along with everybody else around me, and I'm doing it even faster? And so to think I get rid of the pressure, it's more like looking at the conditioning field in our own bodies and checking. And for me, I don't think it works only by understanding it. So that's why I'm also I became a living your design guide, to go through with people through center by center and really stick with it. What does your ego tell you? Yeah, is it still? Can you let go of that? Can you live with the idea I do not have to prove something? So when these loud voices in us that are louder than our inner authority, when we can quieten them, then only the inner authority can also speak in a way that it's not immediately shut down by all the not self voices in us. I think that's the more effective way. That's how I could also change something, saying like, where does this come from that you think you have to get up, you think you have to do this, you are a bad mother. Ah, the open ego. Okay, there we are again. Or the spleen, the open spleen. I have a completely open spleen, not just undefined, which would have the one or the other hanging gates, like, for instance, my ego has gate 40, but there's nothing. So there can be such an overwhelming fear of not being safe on the planet that I get paralyzed with fear. And then I have no access to my inner authority. There's nothing in me that would say, listen to that, because fear is blinding me. Apart from it, it's also my transference, motivation. We talked about it before. Can't be stay with the need, what's needed, more or less also in the world, about others, what can I contribute to that? It's blind fear. And when I'm in fear mode, then I can only say, sit down, breathe, and observe until it goes away. It's not possible for me then to do something or really put my hands. There will be a very practical exercise. First, breathe out. Put my hands on my sternum to really feel where my inner authority is, the G, and try to connect. I know the fear is so big now, and the voices in your head tell you not good enough, you have to do more, lazy bum, yeah, open sacral, or faster, open root, and the world is not a safe place. You will just perish soon with my open spleen and emotional center, not trying to tell anybody about it because what might they think, or then I get an emotional response. All that is so overwhelming. Breathe, stay with yourself. So that needs time and space. Yeah. So if I'm have 5 children and a husband and then a job, then how will people get to that space? They have to really say, I'll leave, and that would be my trip to nature. That's why I could do it then. Going to the woods, sitting at the roots of a tree, hugging a tree. So like really everybody needs to find a way where the loud voices can get a bit quieter and the connection to the inner authority can be supported. And for me, it's trees, for instance. Yeah, trees are amazing. Or swimming in the sea. That's also when I dive or any natural water, also river, suddenly it washes off. So I need to do more of these things that are cleansing, that are healing. So a projector that doesn't have anything to heal, to get them back just by thinking, I should connect to my inner authority, that would never work. Yeah. Need to find many things or have somebody to guide, have a friend. If there is nobody with a human design offer that suits you, I know most offers are quite expensive. So I also always try to find a way with my clients so it's kind of affordable, manageable. What can we do at least to be of some service for them, because that's also very good for me. Like working as myself is for me then a place. But to get there, I have to first have to quieten or not listen, identifying with all the voices in the undefined centers that tell you all the not self stuff all the time. Yeah, so that's something that means deconditioning. And it has to happen first before this inner authority can find its space and get easier and easier accessible. And they're like, yeah, I know. Yes, of course. Yeah. And then this light and vibration and tingling sensation and happiness and all that can then come out. But when the voices are loud and not self is speaking in me, isn't happening.
Would you also suggest as a self-projected projector to really find someone who can listen, tell them that you
Mm-hmm.
need them to listen,
Mm-hmm.
and just speak about all these open centers and the not self themes like you did
Mm-hmm.
now with me?
Mm-hmm.
To say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm not worthy enough,
Mm-hmm.
or I
Yeah.
feel this pressure to always do things.
Mm-hmm.
I also see that the people in their field are so dependent on these uh, projector power of seeing other people, that the children, like when they take time for themselves, even 15 minutes, they come and are crazy to get them back, the awareness of them, the focus of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there really needs to be a strong decision to say,
Yeah.
now it's my time and it's prime time, this 1 hour. Okay, but usually projectors are in such a hustle that they crash before they can
Mhm.
muster the strength to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I observe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's
Um,
so important that we rather say no before we enter a relationship or a job in beforehand. If you're once in it, it's really hard for us to get out of it again if it's not correct. And I would also want to add we need to be gentle with ourselves and forgive ourselves if we are caught in such a enmeshment, entanglement where we can't feel like it would take so much to get out of it. Yeah, so say, okay, I know what's correct. I know I will get there. Right now, I'm still in it, not adding self hatred on top of it. Like, oh, you're such an idiot. Yeah, you're caught in that. That's also important. If it happens, that's the beginning of self love. Say, okay, I can see I'm in a not so good situation for living myself, but I'm working on it and I have the awareness, and that's the first step. So, the more self love we can give us, the more we feed also our inner authority, which is true for everybody. Yeah, I also have a splenic projector now. I'm starting working with on a journey of living your design. And of course, she needs it similarly. Yeah, the spleen is different from the G, but it's similar. It's also in the now, and also lots of open centers. And the same thing, check in where you still have the conditioning and love yourself or accept yourself for why she has a baby now, why you cannot immediately snap out of it. Yeah, so if you once happen to have made some decision that bind you or keep you in something that's not everybody can just walk away and say, well, that was not a good decision. Bye, family. I'm out of it. Some people can. And they know also the child may be looked after well. But if you know there isn't anybody right now, what do you do then? So it's be gentle with ourselves.
and the self-projected is very subtle. A picture stuck with me. It's like a butterfly,
Mm,
and then it lands on you, and suddenly you are sure. Do you experience something similar where you are like so? Oh, I would like that, but I'm not sure, and it shifts. And then there is a moment. Sometimes it takes years. Then it's certain.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, once, and I think then when it really kicks in, then there's really almost nothing that can stop us. Yeah, it's really like we are then aligned with magnetism, with something where we have to go, where we have to be, what we need to do, and then we just go for it. It's especially if it's about ourselves, not about inner relationship, or because that also takes the other to be correct with us, but for ourselves. If that's when we can align with that, that's really the sureness what you say. Oh, that's beautiful, and that's really some a strong, yeah, force in this world that we can contribute with it.
And that's very confusing for people around us. We are like so fluent and then we are rock solid suddenly. It's like
Mhm.
this turning around 180 degrees like, oh, today I'm very stable and we have a good friendship and everything is perfect. And the next day, oh, it's not fitting anymore. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people are puzzled how, because we are so much also about love. I mean, this Jesus and the magnetic monopole, all this love and direction there, and then focusing on one person, and they think that's solid, rock solid forever, because how nobody has ever looked at them like that. Nobody has showered them with all their love and stuff. And then no, I'm out of it. I broke up most of, yeah, actually. I mean, the others did stuff where I knew I had to go, but I was a day, like from one day then to the other, I knew, like, no, it's over. And then you were like, what? No, my favorite pet has to sit next to me. We're a bit like pets to them, also sweet and gentle and nice when we are in that mode. Yeah, no, 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 you can't leave. Yes, I can. I'm out. And there's nothing to ever then convince me back. And if I'm once out of it, I'm out. As you say, it may take time, but it's rock solid. And that's really confusing. Yeah, that's really confusing to people. And
I
it's so,
also,
yeah.
oh, go
Mhm.
on.
No, no, and I was just saying it. I'm really happy for you that you found it at a relative young age and before some really hardcore decisions before relationship or work keep you or make it so much harder or with more consequences to live yourself. Yeah, so if you once are a parent with family, it's really harder. Still a way. And I also think we need to be radical if we don't destroy lives with it. That's would we would not want that, but of our children. But if we can, and then things should also fall into place. Really, really live ourselves. So I'm really happy you sounds really on a very good way. It's very nice to hear that and to pick that up from you. It's cool.
Thank you. So you hear the timbre of the voice you speak
Hmm.
of?
Hmm. Yeah, from the voice also, it's hard to describe how I sense it, but in many ways, it makes I can also feel it in my authority. It feels good and nice and warm and relaxing. So that's already signs there's this resonance of a healthy frequency and of awareness. It feels very good. Yeah, no, this is really something um, that gives me also hope that more projectors can also, now as it's so much more accessible, uh, have the chance to take their life not into the hands that's already too active, but to be themselves, just to live, to know that our first-hand task on the inverted comma on this planet is to live, not to do, not to achieve, not to anything, to live. And with that, we touch lives anyways, and that's what we are here for. And that's just so beautiful. Yeah.
It's more and more in the moment. I think in my observance, my view, it's like there are fast authorities
Mm-hmm.
and there are like slower, like the emotional
Yeah.
and the mental and the environmental. And we are here to live in the moment, to decide from moment to moment, to do what we love as a self projector
Yeah.
and to just dance with life. The emotional is more like the ocean. It's like splashing and in all
Mm-hmm.
directions and very fluent. And I get the feeling that they are not here to make decisions really, because in a wave there is no parting. Like, what are decisions? The emotional authority
Yeah.
says. And that's where we go from a life of control and planning to a life of doing what we love in the moment and
Mm-hmm.
trusting that all magnificence comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
that takes courage to take that leap slowly. It's
Yeah.
for me, it's not a big leap. It's just like jumping from paddle
Mm-hmm.
to paddle,
Yeah.
and like a child. That's my new picture of
Mhm.
being a projector.
Oh, that's beautiful. Skipping. You're going to do skipping from one leg to the other. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, also good.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. To still not completely into the void. I mean, of course, it depends also. I know I have gate 25, and people with gate 51, they are the big jumpers into the void. So for them, it might even be correct, but they could have a very shocking landing if they are not in a correct environment. I'm glad I don't have gate 51 and I don't need to jump. My 25 is just about being innocent and yeah. and loving everything from inanimated object to animated. So it's all about love. And I don't need to jump around like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have three arrows facing left, so structure
Mm-hmm.
is important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think environment is the bottom left.
Mm-hmm.
So PLL, DLR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I need a space, a box, and in this box I can be as I please, as I
Mm-hmm.
what I desire. But without this box of a frame of time, I get lost. But if I plan too much, I start to rebel against it. So if I say, okay, I do every morning hatha yoga and this, then I start to rebel against it. But when I say in this time I do physical
Mm-hmm.
things and this might be different, then it works for me.
Yeah.
So I think we have
Yeah. You have
this
gate 15
structure.
also, but that's also gate 15 that cannot have a fixed rhythm. Gate 5 needs fixed rhythms, and 15, the gate of extremes, so we would get crazy if we had to do something always repetitive or in the same way. And which is another thing. But yeah, you're right that 3 times left, of course, it is strategic, and we can have an agenda about what's needed because that refers mostly to our motivation. If it's the mind, that's about having an agenda, and also your focused view can only take in one thing at one time, but the rightness is in your environment. Yeah, so you are passive, moving passively in your environment, so the others see you actually. Yeah, that's also interesting, just seeing your variables in what you do. So you're somebody extra here to be seen by what who you are, what you yeah, up to. Yeah, and you say you
Very interesting. I have done it the
yeah,
wrong way then. Okay.
like what? Why the wrong way? What do you mean?
Yeah, I stayed in the silence and I'm very happy, but then there comes a moment where I'm so full of
Mhm.
myself, of love, not of myself, so that I want to share it, and then I go out
No,
and
no, that's not.
start to writing, and that's where
That's
everything
fine.
crumbles.
Yeah, but it's fine if you just do it because you love it for yourself, basically. Without, I mean, an agenda can be when you see something is needed in the world, like human design or your podcasts, whatever there is. If you feel it from the inside, because that's how you work, how you function, then you can still have something like, oh yeah, I do a podcast. I like podcasts. I want to talk to people. And then you can have an agenda how to set it up or who to contact. There's nothing wrong with it, but you would still be a passive person in your environment if you want to run around and be fully active all day long just because whatever you think you have to um, go to that person or to that place or contact many people. If this is, you would just first of all get exhausted, and then people couldn't observe you, they couldn't see you because they can see you when you are just more the passive person. You, of course, the
So,
balloons go out in the world because otherwise nobody sees you, but you don't need to be active about it, just about live and love, do what you love, which you do. I see that you do that.
so it's when my website is my environment, I can
Mhm.
write blogs what I like about, and then others can observe me if they want, or make a podcast and talk with people I like to. Then, okay, understand.
Exactly. Because if we think we have to market it because somebody said what is a good marketing strategy, it won't work. But if you just really do what you love, that is our marketing. It's but only when it comes from joy and from abundance. Yeah, we have that in you, as you say, it overflows our cup. It just comes out naturally. then it's something that serves us. If we have to strain yourself, now I have to do this and I have to whatever, put some ads in on social media. I have a second profile on Facebook, which is called the Human Design Self-Love Experiment. And I'm not working on it. I set it up because it popped up and I did a few things, and maybe I have like five things I have written there over the last 2 years or a year. And I'm not active on it because it doesn't come from abundance yet. Yeah, so maybe it will. When I contributed in groups, when things came which I like to reply, then I don't think. It just pours out of me naturally, and I can write something. And that's not an effort. And then usually people like it, or they have whatever something to say about it. That's how it works. But if I think now I have to go to that profile, post something there, share some words of wisdom today, that would not come from the abundance. That would come from the, I have to do something. So I don't know if I grow into it more naturally also with my website, or if it was just the wrong approach. I cannot tell yet. And because as you said, you have a website, and I feel rather that I would enjoy building on the website. That comes from an excitement. Yeah, and I have somebody who helps me. That's why on my own I couldn't do it. But just to go on my human design self-love experiment, which sounds amazing, I think, I haven't started it from abundance yet. So I'm curious if it changes or if I just leave it, and if it was just the wrong approach, which can happen. So it's okay. Something too mental. It might have been too mental. Yeah.
And if you have this impulse, like you had a cool name, I think we self-projected projectors, if you need a title or a slogan, go to a self-projected projector because they sling the gun.
Yeah.
But it's like a seed in the ground. Do you also connect it to the authority? It feels right now, but it's not thriving, but it's in the ground. And when the environment is correct, it will thrive.
Exactly. Yeah. So for now, just looking at it with honesty, I can say apparently it was not really coming from my inner authority. Otherwise, it would have been different. I was so little energy there for me to go there, so little inspiration to write something which I would love to write there. So no, this was apparently a pure mental construct so far. Yeah, I don't know if it can be used, if something that has already started like too mental can still grow or be shifted into something else, if the joy will suddenly come, or if I do it my usual way and find another playground, another way of, if the joy is there, if the abundance is there, where I can have an outlet, where it's suddenly there. Because that would be there from the G, so I can't predict it really. If soon as I say like, yeah, maybe I do this and that,
Oh,
again, I would do it mentally. I'd rather have something brewing up, building website like with pictures, because I love pictures, and I think if I can build something around pictures, that might be an approach. But I cannot just force myself. It's another thing where I'm like, let's see. Yeah, I watch myself either having that or not. Yeah, so it's if not that, this has always been a way how people could find me. And so I really don't know. It's funny, yeah. So with this one thing, I can say that was not how I thought it might turn out. This self love experiment is not really kicking off from my side. No, I have lots of likes, but that doesn't have a consequence because there is not enough content for people to really. I have no information about coachings, about readings, about all my stuff that I offer. I don't have it on that website or on this Facebook profile. So Yeah, I have. It has
Yes,
to be.
sometimes we are in the field of someone else, and then we get the idea and we act upon it. And then when the waves calm down, then we see that it's not ours, that's my experience.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So
Might be a manifesting thing that is was initiated